In other news this morning, a Rhode Island congressman is going to be hosting a neighborhood conversation with communities around the state later today. Congressman David Cicilline joining us in studio to talk about that and a host of other topics. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. So before we get to the little picture about your conversation tonight, let's talk big picture for a second. Certainly a lot going on in Washington, D.C., tackling some really big issues with Congress. What's the latest on the possibility of this government shutdown?
Well, I'm hopeful that we will reach a resolution that avoids a shutdown. There seems to be a small caucus within the Republican caucus led by the Tea Party that are really committed to closing down the government unless health care reform is defunded. I think the Senate is going to send back a bill without that provision and hopefully we'll pass it and keep the government open. It would be very bad for the country, bad for our economy. It would really hurt people. And I think what people want is us to work together to solve some of these big challenges our country faces, but most importantly, keep the government running. And the idea of sort of closing down the government if you don't get your way is a terrible idea. That's not how our democracy works.
So we already know, obviously, that the Affordable Health Care Act is tied into this, but when you look ahead into the future, a week and a half from now, I mean, do you see a future for Obamacare?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that health care reform is going to be implemented. Rhode Island is, I think, going to be a model for the country in the work that's being done here by our Lieutenant Governor, the Governor's office, Christy Ferguson. So I think we're going to be a great example. We're going to have to be prepared to improve it and make changes to it as we see it being implemented and be sure it's working for Rhode Island families, for families across the country. It's a complicated transformation of our healthcare system, but it ends discrimination against people with pre-existing medical conditions, closes the donut hole on prescription drugs for seniors, ends lifetime caps on health plans, lets young people stay on their parents' plan until 26. And so it has a lot of good provisions in it. We have to be sure it works right for families, and we have to be prepared to change it and improve it where necessary. But I think we're going to go forward, and I think we're going to look back and people are going to, 10 years from now, think of it the same way they think of Medicare and Social Security as a great program.
In the last few days, shifting gears for a moment, we have not heard much from President Bashar Assad about what is going to happen with these chemical weapons in his country. What have you heard? I know you've been very outspoken from the very beginning on this ongoing crisis in Syria. What's the latest?
I'm very pleased that the president has put forth a diplomatic solution. I think going to war and engaging in a military strike would have been a terrible mistake. We want to condemn Assad. We want to bring these chemical weapons under international control. I think early signs are that the Assad regime is complying. The Russians have played an important part in this. Putin has just as much interest of getting rid of chemical weapons as we do because of Chechnya and some other insurgents in his own country. So I think this is a moment when interests of Russia and the U.S. may be aligned for very different reasons, and hopefully this diplomatic solution will be successful.
All right, so certainly we have a lot nationally and internationally, but you have matters to take care of here at home as well. And tonight you are having a neighborhood conversations series. Is it starting tonight?
Yes, actually I've done one in Bristol, one in Woonsocket. This is our third. I'll do several more throughout the district. And it's tonight at the Newport Public Library, 300 Spring Street at 5:30. And it's really an opportunity for just constituents to come together and talk about issues that are important to them. I share a little bit about what I'm working on, but really an opportunity to listen to them about what they think is important, opinions they have about important issues of the day, things we should be working on. Kind of very informal, but really encourage people to come and participate in the conversation.
Certainly a very busy man.
Thanks.
Congressman Cicilline, thank you for coming in. And to find out information about any of the topics we just spoke about and also more information about those neighborhood conversation events, head to our website, foxprovidence.com.